So please join me in welcoming this evening, Alix Strauss.
This was a really interesting project, personally, only because you may not be able to experience love, but everybody, unfortunately, at some point will experience death. And as a group, it is something that does bring us together, no matter what your nationality is, no matter where you live, how old you are, it's all the same thing. And yet, we all grieve so differently, as universal as it is. What was most shocking was how everybody adores the celebrity. Technically, people, or the icon, or the luminary, which is technically something called a familiar stranger. They fall into this idea of, it's a fake intimacy. It's sort of what the internet is set up, essentially. We feel we know them, we see them on sitcoms, we have gone to their speeches, we have seen their artwork at the museums, we have read their books, so we've read the interviews. We feel as though we know them, and yet, in actuality, we don't know them at all. So when a celebrity especially kills themselves, we feel this extra sense of longing, and that's why we grieve. And then we have what's called this Kennedy moment, which is where our generation, at least, will always remember where we were when Kurt Cobain shot himself. So with each piece that we shaped and wrote about, part of the other goal was to feel as though you were literally in the car with her. When you open on the Virginia Woolf chapter, you are there with her. She's putting the rocks in her pockets. Spalding Gray, you are hearing the wind, and the boat is rocking, and you're on the ferry with him as he's making this decision to jump into darkness. And like a magician, we say, poof, he disappeared, only to sadly reappear 2 months later with his face completely eaten away from the bottom of the ocean. And a fact that we learned was that in the winter, floaters float to the bottom of the ocean. When it becomes warmer, they float back up. Calm, snap, click. A moment is captured. A shy woman with cropped brown hair stands maybe a foot or so away, the camera held at chest level. Human oddities. These were the subjects and the passions behind the controversial black and white photographs that made Diane Arbus and her work famous. She made the ugly beautiful, the odd attractive. She showed freaks as humans, welcomed their unnaturalness, their dark, eerie creepiness, and they in turn welcomed her into their lives. They let her follow them from their day jobs and into their homes, where she captured who they were when the crowds went away, when the lights were dimmed and the rest of the world wasn't looking. Like the Pied Piper, she seduced them with her charm, her big green eyes, her almost boyish, exotic body, and her non-threatening manner. And whenever there was controversy, odd events, or sexual happenings, Diane was there to document it. She didn't look away, but rather looked into, forced us out of our comfort zone and into seeing the ugly, the distorted, the strong, and the unattractive. She followed her own unattractiveness, which happened in the summer of 1977. For 2 days she lay dead in her Greenwich Village apartment, dressed in pants and a shirt. Her body was found resting on its side in an empty bathtub, covered in blood from the methodical slits she had made in her wrists. The barbiturate she had overdosed on shut down her internal system, as blood leaked out from her wrists in twin, thin streams. Surprisingly, though, she became the oddest and perhaps the loveliest of the freaks that she took pictures of. So that's Diane. So there's some sadness and some loss, but the stories were so interesting. Their last days were so interesting. And that's my spiel, my death spiel for the moment, anyway. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.